Hey guys, today I am going to create a small portal system using the Unity engine, and I will be using the standard asset pack that comes with the Unity editor. So you will learn how to import new packages from the asset store and continue work using that in your project. So I am going to use the Unity hub here, and in my project section I'm going to create a new project using my current Unity version 2019.4.1 F1. Let's keep it as 3D, and this will be a portal. So let's give a general name here, standard assets project, and hit create. Okay, now my project is open in the Unity editor. So first of all I need the standard assets pack imported into my project. So I'm going to go to my asset store here in this tab, or you can actually if you don't have it here in your editor, you can go to window and asset store. It will take some time to connect to the internet. Okay, so you guys will have to keep logged in if you don't have logged in into the asset store, and I'm going to search standard and let's just hit enter. Okay, so here I have already purchased the standard assets pack. Let's check whether we have other options. No. So if you don't have it, you can actually click here and I haven't downloaded the asset pack into my computer even though I have purchased it. Maybe I purchased it in another computer and my account actually has recorded as purchased. So I'm going to download this pack by clicking here. So you will have to wait until this download completes. Okay, now we have to import our package into the project. So I'm clicking import. You will notice that after the download is complete and when you import your asset into the project, a number of items will appear and the editor will ask whether you should import all of them or not. So right now it's actually a little bit too much stuff here. So I'm actually selecting only the character controller here and everything else will be deselected. Well, it's a long list over here, right? It's better if we could just select none here and just go to our characters folder and select the first person character. Yeah, glad I found it earlier. And I am going to click import. Right. Looks like there's an error. We don't have the namespace cross-platform input. Yeah, we can actually double right click our folder here and re-import, or instead we can click import again so that we can decompress and select the assets needed again. So you can see the cross-platform input part was inside the editor folder, I think. So let's import that part as well. We click none, and in our editor folder, where's that editor folder? We, mm, 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 mm. We do have the cross-platform input here. I think this part is enough. So let's import only that part. We can see there are still a set of errors here. If we clear it, no, we still have some errors popping up. Namespace name utility does not exist in the namespace unit. Okay, the utility folder is needed. So let's go back and import. Click none, and you will have to search for this utility folder, right? There's utility folder here. Let's try importing this guy. If any of the imports actually fail or doesn't work, we can actually delete this folder overall. So I'll click import. Yeah, okay. Now we are getting another one. GUI text is obsolete. Use UI.text instead. Simple activator menu. We may not need this utility paths, all of the scripts. For now, I am going to remove simple activator menu script. This is not very reliable work to do because we don't know whether this part is actually dependent into other assets. We can try select dependencies and see that we don't have any dependencies attached to this part. If we go to one column layout in our project, and if we try select our character and prefabs, FPS controller, and select dependencies, you can see it went to the first person controller, right? So if we had any dependencies with the simple activator menu, this script is actually not dependent with the first person character controller. I am going to delete this script for now. Delete. Alright, our errors are gone. We can actually proceed to our scene editing from here. Inside my scene, I'm going to create a 3D plane. And let's drag in our FPS controller into the hierarchy. Okay, so if we double click, you can see the first person controller is having the components, character controller, and a custom script, rigid body, and an audio source as well to give out audio feedback. We'll position it along the Y with 1 unit. Yeah. So if we go to play mode, yeah, you have a decent first person controller working on this plane. So let's actually try transporting this FPS controller through a set of portals, right? I'll add the capsule over here just so that I can see where this guy is going. I don't need the capsule collider. Remove component. Right. I just need the mesh renderer and mesh filter. So if we just dock this guy over here, game window, play mode, cool. So to make a set of portals, we will need an object that actually detects whenever our player character enters into the portal. So I'm going to create an empty object over here and press F2 and call it portal. Right. And let's add the collider into this object. I'm going to do a box collider. I already searched for it before, so if you search what you want for the box collider, you can just add it in the inspector of this portal game object. Now you can see a small cube drawn in the center. You can actually edit this collider geometry using this button. See, we can move centers of this face as much as we want. So I'm going to switch to my isometric view. Let's set this 1.5. How about 0? Yeah, center could be over 1. And size, let's keep it as 2. Right? Yeah. Now we can go to a side view and just scale it down a little bit, and again let's set this to 0. Yeah, in the size let's go to the set value as 0.5. Yeah, okay. Let's scale it up over the x axis. Let's create 2, and over y, yeah, 3 over the y, and offset 2 upwards. Let's see how what happens. No, let's go with 1.5. Yeah. So what I want here is this collider has to be placed on the floor. The bottom face should be touching the ground, and the rest will be covering the player's region. This actually acts as a doorway for the portal. I think now it's a good time to use the ProGrids and ProBuilder packages. So I'm going to import them here. Window, Package Manager. Let's just search for ProBuilder. Yeah, there it is. Let's install this. And also let's install ProGrids. For that we'll need our preview packages option selected. Let's go ProGrids and install that guy as well. Alright, let's close our package manager, and now we can actually create some kind of visual cue for this portal object, right? So I'm going to switch to my front view, and let's create a new shape by Ctrl Shift K. We have the shape tool appearing from the ProBuilder tool. I am going to use the arch object for now with the radius of 2. Let's keep the thickness. Would one do better? I think 0.5 would be okay. Depth would be 1, which means this distance over here is 1 unit. Arch degrees is actually completes this arch. If you have 360 here, you get a full circle. So I'm going to do 180, right? And I need the end caps here. These actually create the faces at the ends of this guy. So if we deselect it, you can see they are empty. Okay, let's build it and close our window, and let's go to our top view here. We have our ProGrids turned on to snap this object as we want. I'm going to snap 1 and 2 units, right? And let's switch to our bottom side view and open our Pro Builder window. Okay, now we want to actually create an archway with two sides. We can actually extrude these two faces to create the side walls. So I am using the face selection mode. Click here and use Control and click the other face, and while holding Shift I am using the vertical axis and pull it down in 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, cool. Now we can go back to object mode and actually lift it up in the 4 units that we extruded downwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have a cool archway here, and we have our box collider. I think it's better if we could scale up this box collider a little bit more. Edit, and in our size let's actually add 2 units more. Let's say it 4. How about 3.5? Yeah, it's better. And along Y 5 units. Let's go with 4 and go with 2. Yeah, this could be okay. Yeah, and let's go to side view. We can drag this center X offset. Should we drag it using here, or we could just pull the archway a little bit to the front? I think it's better if we could use our arch here. And drag it one unit to the front. Okay, so we can actually enter the portal, and we have to walk a little bit inside to trigger this guy. Let's increase the Z size Z value here into 1. Yeah, I think it's kind of okay. So let's keep it 0.5. We may have to use the offset. Yeah, let's go with minus 0.5. So now the collider is actually inside our archway. If you look closely, yeah, these green lines actually go inside the archway. Okay, let's scale up our plane here. Scale tool, object mode, and use the scale tool. Scale it up and use our move tool. You can just click the W key, and all other tools are actually mapped to the first key row of your keyboard. You go to Q, you get to the hand tool, move tool, rotation, scale, and the this square selection tool. I'm not very expert with that. And of course this multi-purpose editing tool also. So I'm going to use the scale tool, QWER. So you can press R. If you want to move this object, I'm going to press W, and you can just move whatever you want into another place. So I'm going to select my player here, FPS controller, and move it a little bit backwards. Whoa. We can actually use this axis here. Cool. We can actually merge this into a single object by creating another empty object, rename it as portal, and let's rename this as entry, and select these two and drag inside our object here. Okay, so we have a collider over here, right? What should actually happen if we have this collider attached to an object? We can see that our first person controller cannot move through the archway, right? I'm going to use this trigger property here, and if we do that, yeah, you can go through it, right? I'm going to keep another extra object here, an empty game object. This will be actually the exit point, which means if we have another instance of this portal, the current portal that you actually see will transport I'm creating this exit object so that if we have another instance of this portal, whenever we enter this portal, the destination will be the exit point of another portal, and when we enter from another portal, it will actually target to an exit of another portal. So we can actually keep it a little bit outside of our portal so that whenever the player gets transported, it won't actually trigger another collision with the collider over here. It's way better. So now we need some logic, right? We need to create another script object, C# script, to actually manage our logic to detect our player going through portals and to transport it into another portal. I'm going to name my script as portal script. It's better if we have another folder over here. Let's call it scripts. I'm going to drag and drop my script over here so that it's cleaner and easy to manage. Okay, I don't need my Pro Builder window. Let's close it and let's open our script. Okay. So we have our script opened in Visual Studio. We need some kind of a logic that actually detects the collision between the first person controller and the portal collider or the entry objects collider. We can actually call on trigger enter method to actually detect this collision. Void on trigger enter and pass a collider. Right. For now, I am going to check whether this logic actually works using debug log, and let's just pass a string here and right, save our script. Let's go back to our editor. Now we have to actually attach it into the entry object here, because the collider is actually attached to the entry. We have to detect collisions with this guy only. Right. Now let's try going to the play mode and check our console. Sorry. So we need to walk in here. Yeah, you can see it actually triggered the debug log as we wanted. Okay, so now we have a small triggering method which can actually put a debug log statement in our console whenever it goes through the portal. Now what we need to do is actually change the position of this first person character entity to another position. Right? Let's see how we can do that. Let's exit play mode and go back to our Visual Studio. So instead of this debug log statement, we need some way to actually disable all the current movement of the player character and then switch it into another position and then enable all the movement of the character. So if we go to our first person or FPS controller, you can see there's a character controller involved in the game object. So if we actually disable this guy here and go to play mode, you can see this guy is not actually moving with our input. With that, we can actually position it wherever we want. So I'm keeping it checked again here. Go back to our script, and here we need to access this character controller of this game object that goes through the trigger collider. How do we actually catch this object going through the collider? This parameter is actually this current object that is going through this trigger collider. So we can access this other parameter and alter its properties, access its components and do whatever we want whenever it passes through the trigger. So to access our character controller, we can uh, use the get component method and pass the name of our component that we need to access. Character controller, you can see it actually automatically appears, and get the enabled property equals false. Let's now temporary check our script in our play mode. I can see there's an additional line here. We don't need the first person standard asset scripts. I think I have accidentally added it. Let's delete that. Okay, save our script, and in our play mode, let's go and I think you see what actually happened here. Let's go back to the play mode. And when I move towards the collider, the movement actually stopped. That is because the character controller actually is disabled when it's colliding with the trigger. So if we check this here, we can see we cannot check it because it's colliding with the trigger in the game loop. Okay, so what we can do here is we can disable the character controller and change the position of the character, and again enable this character controller after positioning is happening. So we can access the transform of this first person character by using other dot transform, and we can assign a value here. Let's add a temporary position to check whether our logic is valid. New vector 3. I'm assigning a vector 3 data to this transform. So we have to keep this object in the ground, on the ground, so that the y should be obviously something like 0, and z value, let's keep it 2, and for x value let's try 2 as well, or let's try a bigger value, 10. Yeah. Here for the transform, actually I missed something. You have to assign it to the transform dot position. My bad. Okay, this position is actually the vector 3 that we are assigning in the game object. I am saving the script. Let's go back, go to play mode. So you can actually check the scene window and see what actually happens. Okay, what we needed actually happened here. So we went through the portal and it snapped to another position. Let's go back and see. So I'm walking in and the position changed. Alright. So now we can actually enable the character controller after this teleportation is finished. Just set the components enabled property into true. Let's go back and go to play mode. So I'm walking in. Okay, I teleported. And let's go back in. Yeah. Alright. So now we do have a small behavior that transports the first person character into another position. But still we need to make sure that this transport happens between two portals, right? For now, for better arrangement, I am going to keep a folder named prefabs so that I can create prefab of this portal object and reuse it whenever I want. So I'm opening the folder. Let's keep it this way, and we need actually some more modifications in this part. We do have an exit position and an entry with the collider and an exit position. So if we go back to our top view, we can see the exit position is outside the portal. So that is actually okay. So we have to transport this player into the exit position of another portal, right? We may need the reference for this exit transform inside our script. So I am going to add public transform exit, and all we need to do is we can assign this transform dot position as exit dot position, right? Let's save our script. Okay, now we actually do not need this portal to transform this player from here to here. We need from here to somewhere else. Now it's better if we can create prefabs of our uh, portal just by dragging it into the prefabs folder, right? Now all we have to do is duplicate our portal object and let's move it to another place, right? And in our first portal we can go to the entry, and for the exit we can assign the other portals exit transform, right? And in this portal's entry we can assign the other portal's exit. So we have a small connection that actually loops between these two portals. So if we go to play mode, you walk in here and you exit from the other portal, right? But still something is off here, right? We should not be actually able to go from different directions. So it goes from here, it exits, okay, right? So if we enter from this side, where should the portal lead to? That's actually a little bit off on that part. So what happens here is, if we go to play mode and we enter this portal and you exit from the other one, and if you go back, right, if you go back to the place you actually came from, you are transported into the exit position of the previous portal. So what you see here is, if you keep pressing the forward arrow or the forward direction, it keeps transporting between the exit positions. So this is not very convenient for our transport method or the portal mechanism. Okay, but what if we could just read the player's movement direction and move it towards a position away from this portal's position? Instead of a fixed exit position, you can have an exit region using that, because we are reading the player's movement direction. So if we go from here, it has to land in a place in front of the portal, and if we move from this side, your player's landing position will be somewhere in this region. That would be much convenient in this context. So instead of reading our exit position here, we'll add a small offset plus this offset is aligned along the player's movement direction. We can access it as the dot transform dot forward, because we are moving along the forward direction or the z-axis of this transform. And to give an offset, a numerical value, we can multiply it by floating point number. I am giving 2f. I think it's better if we could read the other object inside our method so that we can access it whenever we want. We can do we can use the game object player equals other dot game object, right? And then we can just read the character controller, right? Because the character controller also is getting red twice here. Instead of using this, let's use character controller. So I'm deleting this part. Character controller player underscore C. This is a local variable just for temporary references. So I am taking other dot get component character controller, right? So we can omit these two get component calls and merge them into one easily, right? And again over here, yeah, and then we can actually access the transform as well using the transform property of the player underscore C, right? And we may not need the exit transform that we added into the prefab, because this guy's this exit object is placed at a finite predefined position. So we, instead of using the exit object, we can use the arch object or the portal itself as the exit position. Now we have to delete these exit objects from these game objects in the hierarchy. For that, it's better if we can access the prefab and edit the prefab so that the changes get distributed to all of the instances of that prefab. You can see I can click this arrow over here and go to the prefab editor mode, right? Now we are in the prefab editor mode in the scene window. You can select the exit object over here, just delete that, and I'm going to save it, Control S, and let's go back. You can see both of the exits are gone from the portals. So if we select our entry object over here, you can see the transform is missing. We can drag this transform here, the other portal, and just assign it here. And for the portal 1's entry, we can use the other portal as the exit. Okay, I'm going to check my logic in the play mode now. Let's go to Control P. Okay, the transporting happened in one direction, and if we go from here, okay, now that weird transportation is gone. You can actually move from one portal to the other. Okay, so you can understand that regardless of all the pro builder meshes or colliders, the basic logic is disabling the character controller that was already with the first person object, first person character prefab object which we have in the scene. We just disable it and place it wherever we want, and then enable it again. Let's say you want to transport it over key press or in a button click, wherever you want as an event. All we have to do is these three steps if you are using the character controller in Unity. It's not just limited to the standard assets first person character. You can do it wherever you have this character controller attached, because the character controller's move method is what actually moves the player around whenever it disabled. Whenever it gets disabled, you can position it wherever you want. Okay, I think that's enough for understanding the main mechanic of these two portals. You can actually experiment using a network of portals so that you can have fun in your game level. I'm stopping my video for now. You can try out more mechanics and experiment them in your free time by actually modifying this portal mechanism. And if you have any other queries, if you want to check out other experiments, you can request them if you want. And see you guys again with another cool video.